welcome to Funday Monday number 11 for hat number 5 for the Hat Not Hate project. I am calling this pattern Playful Stripes, and even though it's the same pattern, if you change your colorway, meaning how wide you make your stripes or how many colors you use, that one pattern can entirely create a whole new hat, just depending on how wide your stripes are or how many colors you throw in there. So I'm going to show you an example. So the first hat that I made when creating that design is this one here, and this pattern literally is nothing more than working in single crochets. And then the second one I made using the same pattern, just increasing the width of my stripes, is this one. And literally each stripe is made out of 6 rows or 6 rounds of each color. And again, in both of these, I just used 2 colors. And the colors that I used was the Yarn Inspirations Karen Simply Soft in the blue mint. It's a medium 4 weight. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. And then I use Yarn Inspirations Karen Cotton Cakes in the white, and it is also a medium 4. And then I made one more hat in that same pattern, following just like the first hat, but I changed up the colors. And isn't that gorgeous? Doesn't it look like there are lights on it? But I used some metallic yarn, and let me get my labels because my labels are no longer on them. And the first one I used was Red Hearts with Love Metallic in Royal. And this is it right here. That's, you can see the little shimmery blue in it. And then I used I Love This Yarn Metallic in white. And both of these yarns, there's the Royal, is a medium 4, and trying to read upside down. And right here, the white is also a medium 4. And so again, just playing with the stripes can completely change the pattern. So we're going to do one that changes the stripes every row to create one similar to this. And I am going to go ahead and use our metallic colors one more time for this tutorial. So if you're ready to get started with hat number 5, then meet me over at the craft table. The items that you are going to need for this tutorial are a pair of scissors, a yarn needle. You may or may not need a stitch marker. It just depends on your preference. You will need a measuring tape. You will need a J or 6mm hook. The yarn that you're going to use. And of course, we start every project off taking care of our best tool by making sure that our hands stay completely hydrated. And to start this video, or this hat, excuse me, we are going to start with a magic ring. We're going to wrap the yarn around our fingers, going to cross over and wrap around behind that yarn, securing it between our ring finger and our pinky finger. We're going to come with our hook and go under the first one, grab the second one, pull it through. We're going to twist it. We're going to come over and grab the one that we're securing between our ring finger and our pinky finger, and we're going to pull it through, and we have our magic ring. We are going to work 6 single crochets into that magic ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're then going to pull on the tail of our magic ring to close our circle up. And we're just going to keep on pulling until it's just nice and tight and closed. Then we're going to take our working yarn and we're going to go right into the top of that first single crochet, and we're going to slip stitch to join, and there is round 1. We're going to chain 1, and for round 2 we are going to work 2 single crochets into each of the 6 single crochets we made on round 1. I am going to keep my tail up against my work, and I'm going to work over it and secure it in as I go. If you are not comfortable with doing that, you can just kind of throw it to the back and weave it in later. But for this tutorial, we are actually going to work it in as we go. So starting round 2, we're going to work 2 single crochets into each of our 6 single crochets from round 1. And that makes 4. Five, 6, 7, and 8, and 9, and 10, and then the last 2, 11, and 12. And so I've completed that whole round, so I'm going to go ahead and give my magic ring tail another nice little tug. Make sure my hole is staying closed up very nicely. And you can go ahead and trim that tail off if you want, but since I still have quite a bit of length, I'm just going to go ahead and keep working it in for a couple more stitches. So to start round 3, we're going to slip stitch right into the top of that first single crochet to join, and that completely completes our second round. We are going to chain 1 to begin our third round. Round 3 is going to be worked just like round 2. We are going to work 2 single crochets into each stitch around, So going right into that same stitch that we made the slip stitch and the chain one in, we're going to work our first 2 single crochets, and then we're going to go right into the next one. And I've got my stitches a little tight, but I'm also working around that metallic yarn, so I have to make sure that I'm getting it as well. And then I'm going to go right into the next stitch and work 2 more single crochets, and then after this I'm going to go ahead and trim my tail. So continue working round 3, working 2 single crochets into each stitch. You will have 24 single crochets at the end of round 3, and I will meet up with you there. When you complete round 3 and you have 24 single crochets, we are going to slip stitch into the very first single crochet of round 3 to join it. And then we're going to just tuck our blue yarn to the back here, and we're going to go ahead and get our white yarn. And we're just going to loop it on for our chain 1. We're just going to grab the working yarn and chain 1 and pull our yarns down tight. And then for round 4, we are just going to work 1 single crochet in each of our 24 single crochets from round 3. I am going to take my white tail and I'm going to work it in as I go. So we're going to go right into that same stitch that we did the slip stitch and the chain 1 in and make our first single crochet, and then we are going to just work our way all the way around round 4, working 1 single crochet into each of the single crochets from the previous round. So go ahead and work your 24 single crochets for round 4, and I will meet up with you at the end of the round. At the end of round 4, you should have 24 single crochets. Now, if you are not going to change your yarn color every row and you're doing more of a thicker stripe, that's where your stitch marker will come in handy by putting it in the first stitch of each row so you can help yourself find your way back around at the end of the round to the beginning of the round if you're working in the same color. So for us, we're going to change our color back to blue. So I'm going to tuck, whoops, sorry about that. I'm going to tuck the white yarn behind our work since we're alternating every other color, or excuse me, every other row. And we're going to pick up our blue yarn. And I'm going to make sure everything is nice and tight and secured down. And we're going to chain 1 with our blue color. And then I'm just going to pull my white down nice and tight like that. And then going right into the first stitch from round 3, I'm going to make a single crochet. Then in the next stitch, I'm going to put 2 single crochets. And this is going to be our repeating pattern. So in the next stitch, I'm going to work 1 single crochet. And in the next stitch, I'm going to work 2 single crochets. We'll do it one more time together. 1 single crochet in the next stitch and 2 single crochets into the following stitch. So go ahead and complete round 5 by working 1 single crochet into the next stitch and then 2 into the next one, and just repeat that pattern 1, 2, 1, 2 all the way around, and I will meet you at the end of round 5. Now when we get to the end of round 5, we will now have 36 single crochets. So at the end of round 5, you should have 36 blue single crochets. We're going to go ahead right into the first single crochet of round 5. That's a little tight. Just wiggle it in there. And we're going to slip stitch to close the round. I'm going to move my blue yarn over here to the back, and I'm going to pull up my white yarn, and I'm going to chain 1, and I'm just going to take my yarn and pull all my loops nice and tight. All right, so right here in that same stitch that we did the slip stitch and the chain 1, we're going to go in and do 1 single crochet, and for round 6 we're going to put 1 single crochet in each of the 36 single crochets from round 5. So go ahead and work a single crochet in each stitch around, and I will meet up with you at the end of round 6. At the end of round 6, you should have 36 white single crochets. We are going to slip stitch into that very first single crochet to close our round. We're going to then take our white yarn and we're going to pull it to the back, and we're going to pull our blue yarn up. We're going to chain 1, and now we're going to work our next row of increasing stitches, and this time we're going to work a single crochet right into that same stitch as the slip stitch in the chain 1. We're going to work a single crochet into the next stitch, and then into the next stitch we are going to work 2 single crochets, and that will be our repeat pattern for this round. Let's work it again. In the next stitch we'll do 1 single crochet. In the next stitch we will do 1 single crochet, and in the next stitch we will do 2 single crochets. So our repeat pattern is 1, 1, 2. So let's do one more together. 1 single crochet in the next stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And that is the pattern you're going to repeat all the way around round 7. When you get to the end of round 7, you should have a total of 48 single crochets. So go ahead and complete this round, and I will meet up with you at the end. At the end of round 7, you should have 48 single crochets. We're going to finish this round with a slip stitch right into that first single crochet. We're going to drop our blue yarn to the back. We're going to pick up our white yarn, and now your yarn may start to get tangled a little bit if you're using more than one color, and all you have to do is just kind of unwind it and separate it just to keep it from getting tangled. Go ahead and chain 1, and then we are going to complete round 8 by working 1 single crochet in each of the 48 stitches from round 7. So go ahead and complete round 8 by working a single crochet into each stitch on the round, and then I will follow up with you when you get to the end. When you get to the end of round 8, you should have a total of 48 white single crochets going around. Be very careful as you're working that you do not work into this stitch right here where you're doing your slip stitch. That is what is called a false stitch. So you want to make sure that you are not working in that, because then it's going to give you extra, stitches in your round. So once we have completed that round, we're going to close it by joining it with a slip stitch right into that first stitch. We're then going to pull our white yarn to the back, and we're going to pick up our blue yarn and chain 1. And I'm just going to secure my yarn loops down tight. And now for round 9, we're going to continue doing an increase row. So we're going to go right into that same stitch as our slip stitch in our chain 1, and we're going to make a single crochet. We're going to make a single crochet into the next stitch, a single crochet into the next stitch, and we're going to do 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And that is going to be our repeat pattern. 1, 1, 1, 2. Let's do it again. 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So go ahead and repeat your pattern of 1, 1, 1, 2 all the way around the round, and I will meet up with you when you get to the end. When you get to the end of round 9, you should have 60 single crochets worked in the blue. We're going to finish the round by slip stitching right into that first stitch, and we're going to put our blue yarn to the back. We're going to pull up our white yarn and chain 1, and we're going to go right into that same stitch and create a single crochet, and then we are going to work a single crochet in each stitch around to complete round 10. So go ahead and work a single crochet in each of the stitches, and I will meet you at the end of the round. At the end of round 10, you should have 60 white single crochets worked for the round. We're going to close this round by slip stitching into that first stitch. We're going to put our white yarn to the back, and we're going to pull up our blue yarn and chain 1. And we're going to go right into that same stitch. And this is another increasing row, so we're going to go 1 single crochet into that stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So our repeating pattern for round 11 is going to be 1, 1, 1, 1, 2. Let's do another. A single crochet into the next stitch, 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 and then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So go ahead and continue working that pattern of 1, 1, 1, 1, 2 all the way around to complete round 11. When you get to the end of this round, you will have 72 single crochets. When you complete round 11, you should have 72 blue single crochets in that round, and we're going to join the round with a slip stitch to the very first single crochet. We're going to pull our blue yarn to the back. We're going to pick our white yarn up, chain 1, going right into that same stitch. We're going to do a single crochet, and we are going to do a single crochet in each of the 72 stitches from round 11. So go ahead and complete round 12 by working 1 single crochet in each stitch of the round, and I will meet up with you at the end of round 12. At the end of round 12, you should have 72 white single crochets worked up. Again, be careful not to be working any stitches into the false stitch. We are going to slip stitch into that first single crochet to join the round. And then I'm just going to flip my work over so you can see how this is working here at the join. So you can see it, but yet it is almost invisible. And of course, this side of the hat is going to be what is up against your, the head of the person wearing it. So this is the part that is going to be seen. So this makes up for a nice little hat. Now, for the circumference of the hat, or the width of the crown of the hat, you want it to be about 6 inches across. So let's go ahead and measure this out. We're going to put that down. And mine is right at about 6.5 inches. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to quit increasing. Now, if your hat does not quite measure 6 to 6.5 inches, I would continue increasing the rows by adding a single crochet before you do your 2 double crochets. So in other words, in the last increasing round, we were doing 4 individual single crochets before we did 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So if you needed to increase yours some more, you would do 5 single crochets and then 2 single crochets. And if you needed to increase even more, 6 single crochets individually and then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And however you need to get your hat to the width for the crown that you need. But 6 to 6.5 inches is a good measurement for an adult hat. So now, going forward for round 13 to the end of the hat, we're going to just work 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So the rest of our hat will continuously always have 72 single crochets at the end of each round. Now, depending on the colorway that you've chosen, the width of the stripes that you've chosen, you'll need to continue working the pattern with whatever color coordination or stripe width that you have created. For mine and for this tutorial, we'll continue to rotate the blue and the white every single round. Now, the last 4 rows that I will do in the solid blue, just like I did for this hat. to create a brim that kind of helps pull out this little centerpiece here. Now, as you're working, you want your hat measurement. We'll just go with this one here. For a beanie hat, which is what I'm making these in, you want it to measure somewhere, and this is now in the length, not the width. You want it to measure somewhere around 7 to 8 inches. This particular hat is right at 7 inches. That's the back of the hat there, depending on how it's folded. It's even. So it is right at 7 inches. And this one is right at 7.5 inches. And this one is right at 7 inches. So somewhere between 7 and 8 inches would be a very good length for a beanie hat. Now, if you want your hat to be a little bit longer, you can make it a little bit longer. But for this tutorial, I am going to continue alternating the blue and the white yarn until my hat measures about 6.5 inches, probably about 6.5 inches. And at that point, I will go ahead and retire my white, and then I will just continue in the blue for 4 rows so that it creates a brim for my hat. So go ahead and continue working 1 single crochet in each of the 72 stitches around until your hat measures about 7 to 8 inches. And I will meet back up with you and we'll take a look at our final completed project of our hat. So welcome back to the completion of our Playful Stripes hat. I decided to be even more playful in the brim of this one. I know I talked about doing the brim all in the dark blue, but I thought since I had already done one like that, why not be a little bit more playful in the stripes and do something different. So again, this gives you an idea of how you play with your stripes can completely change the outlook of your hat. So I really like the idea of calling this pattern Playful Stripes because actually it is very playful in how you change up your colorway and your stripe aspect, so to speak. Completely gives you a different playful cheery hat. So again, we're going to look at all of our Playful Stripe hats and just continue to see that however you work your stripes up completely changes the outlook of your hat. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you enjoy making the Playful Stripe hat, and I would love to see all the different combinations that you can come up with. So please be sure and share your hats on any of my social network sites that are listed in the description box below, and I would love to share those on our Friday Cup to Hook conversations. Have a great week. I look forward to seeing you next week for hat number 6. We will be creating the grit stitch hat, and I hope that you have a great week, and I will see you soon. Be joyful, stay crafty in your own way, and make your own joyful creations. Bye, guys.